Hello everybody and welcome back to our brand new episode of Formula 1 2019 Career Mode. Today we go to the French Grand Prix, so a race that I'm looking forward to quite a bit. I think we can have a fairly strong run, and of course we come straight to qualifying here for the French Grand Prix, and I would actually make it for the first time in my career to Q3, surprisingly, so we'll jump straight to the later half of my Q3 lap here as I was coming through now the final sector here at France. Certainly a fun track to race around. Obviously, it didn't produce the best race in real life this season, probably one of the worst races of the season in real life, so hopefully that doesn't happen today here in the video game there as we were coming through into the penultimate corner now, down into the final corner. At this point, Lewis Hamilton sitting P1 on pole here in the Mercedes now as we came down the front straightaway, coming through to complete our only lap in Q3. It would go with a P8 right at the moment, so I was very excited with that lap, and then we would come through to sim the rest of the lap, and sorry, we went actually P7, but then dropped down to P8. Max Verstappen did not have a lap, which is weird, so hopefully we can have a good run now. So let's get straight into the French Grand Prix here, into the pre-race show.
To the circuit Paul Ricard, home of the French Grand Prix, home race of the Renault team, and of course a number of the drivers on the grid as well. Of the 14 races held here up until 1990, 5 were won by a Frenchman, and 4 of those, of course, were Alain Prost. I wonder who'll add their name to that winners list today. The circuit Paul Ricard then, a 3.6 mile track, 25 miles east of Marseille. 15 corners here, 6 to the left and 9 to the right, with the main overtaking chance expected going into turn 8. Top speeds today should be around 205 miles per hour. With me today, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Now, I want to ask you about Lando Norris. As with all the drivers at this level, they have a lot of ambition. But Formula One's a daunting step up from any other series, so expectations are high right from the start. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Leclerc, Vettel, Pierre Gasly, and Faber, Norris, the Rainmaster, Sainz, and Max Verstappen. Raikkonen, Butler, Romain Grosjean, and Ricciardo, Kvyat, Albon, Antonio Giovinazzi, and George Russell, Kubica, and Sergio Perez completes our grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
We're in a better grid position than we were expecting. Let's see if we can hold on to it.
Better grid position than we expected, like you see here from Jeff there, as this time I actually remember to take fuel out of the car. We are going to get some rain, as you can see towards the end of this race. We haven't had rain in a race this season, so today is going to be the first time, so certainly could shake things up a little bit. Hopefully we can actually get to the rain on one stop now, as we would get this formation lap underway here. Behind the McLaren of Lando Norris, fellow rookie this season, and behind us is McLaren teammate of Carlos Sainz there, as we would get straight to the grid and get ready to go green here for the France Grand Prix here now. It is 4, now 5 red lights. There's the Mercedes of Hamilton leading the way. It's lights out, and we are underway here for the French Grand Prix. 2 Mercedes on the front row, and then we got 2 Ferraris in the second row. Charles Leclerc in that third position. Now trying to make it to the outside of Lewis Hamilton as we go through turns 1, and a winglet goes flying past us. It's actually from our teammate of Romain Grosjean, who got into the back of the Alfa Romeo on the start, losing a winglet. You're going to see now his point of view here as he went into turns 1. He just drove straight into the back of the Alfa Romeo of Kimi Raikkonen, so he has got some damage here on this first lap. So a bad start for Romain Grosjean. Now he is pretty much behind for the rest of this race, as his pace would be way off now, as Raikkonen is following us down the straightaway, as we did get past him now. As we go down towards the left-hander, he's going to stick his nose up the inside now, but we stay clear as we come through the left, a little right chicane here in France. So holding on to the position for the moment here in the French Grand Prix behind the Red Bull, as that might be Max Verstappen. It is Max Verstappen now, as Raikkonen's going to battle back though on the right-hand side as we go through the right bend, and he gets the position, as I didn't put up too much of a fight there as we go down through the next few corners. It's the first lap. Of course, I'm not going to fight him like it's the final lap now as we come through the next few corners. So Raikkonen taking over P10. Obviously, we started up in the 8th position, now dropping to P11. So we lose 3 positions on this opening lap here in the French Grand Prix. Behind us, we still have our teammate of Romain Grosjean, but the damage would certainly come into effect and start to affect him pretty quickly here in the French Grand Prix as we went down through the final corner. Certainly, I felt like we had good pace still in this car, but now you see Grosjean starting to drop back a little bit, and he would continue falling down the order. Now as it came to lap 3, DRS enabled Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault, moving up into that 11th position, as I'm just trying my best to stick with Raikkonen. Obviously, he's got better tires than me. A lot of these guys behind me have better tires. Actually, everybody behind me at this point had better tires than me. So I was really just kind of holding on to get to the first pit stop here in France now as we come through this first sector on the course. So just, like I said, hoping to get through another lap or two without losing too much time, as Daniel Ricciardo was quickly closing in on the back of me. We were planning to come into the pit lane on the next lap, which would be lap 4. And so now as we come to the later on this lap there's trouble up ahead, though, as we go into the little left and right hander. It is Lucas Weber, our former Formula 2 teammate, who is blown up now, and he is over on the right hand side of the track. So he is our first DNF of this Grand Prix. So unfortunate for Lucas Weber now. But as we came to lap 4, towards the end of lap 4, Daniel Ricciardo had run me down. Obviously, I'm just losing so much grip at this point. This time, though, we're coming through to make our first pit stop of the day just in front of Ricciardo. Obviously, he can stay out and go right on past now as we head down into the pit lane. We're going to be the only car, actually, on this lap coming into the pit lane here to make our first pit stop of the day. Obviously, we're hoping that maybe these mediums will stretch it to the rain here in France. So hopefully, if that works out, then it can be just a one stop for the dry tire, and then we'll go right on to likely the intermediate tire later in this race now, as we would come through on the exit of the pit lane, sitting P19 right now. Our teammate Romain Grosjean not much further ahead in the order. He was quickly, like I said, falling down due to the damage that he had picked up on that opening lap on the start. So not good for Romain Grosjean there, as I accidentally clipped that pylon, so not a good turns 1 there. Now as we would just get back into the rhythm here and start closing in on the next cars ahead. Our teammate Grosjean had come to the pit lane here a few laps later, and he had now fallen down to P19. He was about 20 seconds or so behind me. Obviously, he's got a new wing at this point, but he is so far behind that the chances of him getting a good finish are pretty low here now in France, as we were quickly closing in on the back of Daniel Kvyat, who was actually having some issues there, which was causing him to be slowed down now as he came to lap 9, and another lap or so later, still quickly closing in on the back of Kvyat. He was behind a McLaren and a Williams of George Russell or so. Now as we came to lap 10, there's a little bit of trouble between Russell and the Red Bull of Max Verstappen there. So Russell goes off track. He does regain control of the car and gets back on track, as we were actually coming up on this incident now as we exit turn 1 and turns 2, as we come in to the frame behind Daniel Kvyat here, closing in on them pretty quickly. And like I said, Kvyat low on power at this point in the race, and now Russell with damage on that front wing, so we're closing in on the back of both of them very quickly at this point through this first sector. All of these guys in front of us obviously on a one-stop strategy. As you hear it over the radio, Jeff says that Kvyat's actually gotten his problem fixed, so certainly trying to get past him as quick as I can as we put the ERS in overtake. We have DRS now as we look to the right-hand side now of Daniel Kvyat as we head down towards the left-hander. We're going to actually clear him by the time we get into the entrance of the corner, sending it in pretty deep, and we take over P17, and now we would set our sights on George Russell in the Williams there as we come down to the front straightaway now on the end of lap 10. A chance to make a pass on him as we put the ERS back into overtake mode. We look to the right hand side now of the Williams driver, George Russell, and we're going to take over the position from him and now set our sights on Robert Kubica, his Williams teammate there, as we went through turns 1 and turns 2 on lap 11, and as we came through later on lap 11, now closing in on the back of Kubica, putting it back into overtake mode as we're going to get a little aggressive here and look to the right hand side through the right bend as we're going to go side by side, and we should be able to take over the position, but it's going to continue to battle on my left hand side. But as we go into the right hander, we do take over the position from Robert Kubica there in the Williams car. Move up into P15 now as we head through next to a few laps later on lap 13, moving up into P12 as Kimi Räikkönen had just exited the pit lane, quickly closing in on the back of Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris, who were scrapping it out pretty heavily here in these last handful of laps. They were certainly not giving up on each other as Jeff comes over the radio there. 5 minutes or so till rain, and at this point we get up to P8 now on lap 15. Behind us we got Sebastian Vettel who came into pit lane, closing in on the back of me quickly, so I decided to get over to the left hand side of the track to let Vettel go. Obviously no point at all in holding up a Ferrari considering the pace in this Haas car now as we exit the corner, so dropping a position to Vettel there, sitting P9. At this point I was just holding on, hoping that the medium tires would get to the rain, as if we do have to make another pit stop before the rain, we're going to be in big trouble and we're probably not going to be able to get a points finish. So I decided to stretch this pit window a little bit and try to hang on with this medium tire to make sure we get to the rain. And now as you came to lap 16, you see here now Vettel getting into the battle with Sainz and Norris there, as well as Charles Leclerc is in the middle of that battle there as we exit turn 2 right on the back of the gearbox of Vettel. We're going to look to the left-hand side for the moment there as he has a chance to make a move on Norris. We back out of it knowing that it's pretty much not a good idea to get into this battle there as we go through the left-hander. A little bit wide now, Raikkonen right on my gearbox as we go down into the right-hander. A great battle up ahead between Norris and Vettel there as we come through the next right-hander. Raikkonen still right on the back of me, ready to pounce as we go down the straightaway here. And now we have a yellow flag up ahead, and it's Charles Leclerc and the Ferrari having a big engine failure as he pulls over to the right-hand side of the track. We go past, and it's yellow flags now as Vettel's trying to make a move on Norris, and Raikkonen looks to my left-hand side, but he can't make the move as the yellow flags are on. That would be illegal now as we come through the right-hander right behind Vettel. Great little scraps here in front of us as we head down the straightaway. Once again, Raikkonen on my gearbox as he might make a move to the right-hand side, and sure enough, he does there as he's going to come through to take over the position. So we briefly drop down to P9 as Vettel has completed the pass on the McLaren driver of Lando Norris at this point here. Now as we came to another lap lane on lap 17, though, we're going to bring the fight back to Kimi Raikkonen there on the left-hand side as we go down into the corner. Our teammate Grosjean into the pit lane once again there as we make the pass once again on Kimi Raikkonen, move back into P8 behind Lando Norris there in the McLaren car there as we came through now on lap 17. Though the raindrops start falling here in France, so certainly now the rain is here and we're getting ready to just try and survive to the point where we have to put on the intermediate tire. So we were just kind of settling in to make sure I don't make some silly mistakes, as obviously the track is going to quickly get a little bit more wet here now as we came to lap 19. A few laps later, the rain's starting to fall a little heavier and the track is certainly starting to dampen up. So just trying to hold on at this point as we head down through this first sector. Raikkonen still behind me there, about a car length or so behind, so he's still putting on the pressure at this point as these cars up ahead still get in this scrap between Verstappen and who is in between the two McLarens of Sainz and Norris. Norris had gone past Sainz, as you can tell at this point. Now as we came to still lap 19, a little bit later on the lap, just trying to hold on, a little bit of oversteer that we were dealing with, but getting ready to make a pit stop now as we came to the end of this 19th lap. Norris and myself and other drivers would come through to make their first stop, or not first stop, but our second stop to put on the intermediate tire, which will be our first time putting on a wet tire here in a race this season, in our rookie season. So time to get some rain experience here in the actual race instead of just qualifying or practice here as we exit our pit box. It's a pretty decent stop. Certainly could have been a little bit better now as it was 2.664 seconds as we exit behind Lando Norris there in the McLaren. Behind us we got Sergio Perez in the Racing Point, who comes out in P9 as we're going to exit in P8. So thankfully we didn't have to make a second pit stop on the dry tire, so it puts us in a great position now inside the top 10. P8 is our best finish so far in a career mode. We finished 8th, I think, 4 or 5 times already this season here, so hopefully we can change that today now as the battle would be on as we came through on the next laps. Carlos Sainz had to stay out, and so did, I believe, Ricciardo there, so they were just coming in to the pit lane at this point. So we would move through to take over the 6th position here, and we would kind of just hold on to P6 now as we came to lap 23, about 5 or so laps to go in the French Grand Prix, just trying to hold off Checo Perez there behind us as we're just hoping that nothing goes wrong. Don't want to make any silly mistakes at this point as the conditions are continuing to worsen throughout this Grand Prix. It was supposed to get into heavy rain, and as we closed in on the final laps, it was certainly starting to have some heavy rainfall here towards the end of the French Grand Prix. There is, you see behind, we got Perez and Raikkonen still behind us within range. If we do make a mistake, they can definitely pounce on me now, as I was just trying my best to close in on Norris, trying to get a P5 finish, but Norris 5th, a great performance right now as well for Norris as we would come across the line, hitting 2 to go at this point. Now Perez starting to close in on the back of me now as we start this final lap. He's within 7/10 of a second now as we head down towards turns 1 for the final time here in the French Grand Prix. Just making sure I have a mistake-free lap to end this race now as we come through turns 2. Pretty safe there, a little bit of oversteer on the exit, but obviously that's expected in these conditions as it's definitely heavy rainfall at this point as we come through the right-hander, closing in on the end of this first sector here in France. Norris certainly within range. If he makes a big mistake, we could get to him, but certainly don't have quite the pace to run him down. Obviously 3.5 seconds to Norris at this point, so we're definitely not going to get to him on this final lap without a big error on his part as we head down the straightaway for this final time. And as this is happening as well. Lewis Hamilton leading the Grand Prix is getting ready to actually come through this final corner now, and he is going to take the checkered flag behind the Williams there as Hamilton comes through to win the France Grand Prix. And in second, it's going to be Valtteri Bottas. In third place, it's actually going to be Pierre Gasly getting his first podium, I believe, of the season, as Sebastian Vettel, he would bring it home in the fourth position, as well as you have some more oversteer through the penultimate corner now, down into the final corner. It's been a great performance for us here in the French Grand Prix, and it's going to be a career best finish as we head down the front straightaway. We're going to come through to hold off Perez for the 6th place finish in France.
Top job, my friend, top job. I was a bit worried about this one at the start of the weekend, but you pulled through. Thank you.
And Mercedes have pulled off a great victory here today. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, I know it's a bit of a boring answer, but the truth is they simply had the best speed package on the day, and a driver who knows how to take advantage of that. It doesn't matter how much time you spend poring over the stats and planning strategies if you can't keep the pace, and our winner today showed they could do both.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
A great result for us here in the French Grand Prix. A terrible result for our teammate Romain Grosjean now, as we once again overtake Grosjean in the points as we're 5 points ahead of him. Lewis Hamilton now is a 21-point lead over Sebastian Vettel. Mercedes has a 50-point lead over Ferrari as we get a great 6th place finish here there as our teammate Grosjean finished down in 16th. Absolutely horrible result for our teammate Grosjean, who obviously kind of inflicted that on himself. He picked up damage in the first corner, so 100% his own mistake costed him a good chance at this race. So we get the best of Grosjean again, and it would once again actually be time for some contract negotiations. I was still kind of content with being driver number 2. I still hadn't felt like I had proved myself worthy of being in the driver number 1 position, so we came into this contract saying, okay, I'm definitely going to be driver number 2 again. And it was a little bit hard negotiating with Haas this time around. They felt my value was actually lower than what the contract value was. So like I said, negotiations were hard, but this was the final negotiation I made right here. This was also my final chance to get it right, and we just barely get the negotiation. So our expected qualifying and race position is P9 now. As always though, if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Those would all be very appreciated. In the next one, we do go to Austria, another fun track, so hopefully we can run well there. So I will see you guys for the Austrian Grand Prix. Thank you for watching, everybody, and have yourselves a great day.